President Obama is sidestepping Congress here by appointing 3 new members to the National Labor Relations Board while lawmakers are on vacation. I don't know, and the head of the nation's largest labor union is throwing his support behind the decision. Richard Trumka is saying, quote, "We commend the president for exercising his constitutional authority to ensure that crucially important agencies protecting workers and consumers are not shut down by Republican obstructionism." So if Richard Trumka likes this, is this bad news for job creators? Analysts, bad news for the Communist Act. Demos senior fellow Richard Brodsky. Okay, I understand, sir, that this is not the first time a president has done this, in recess appointment, right?
Well, this is a little different because the Republicans have an active strategy to shut down agencies by not allowing appointments to go forward. It's
right.
One thing when you filibuster you have a policy decision, you're in a conflict. Here, what they're saying is, we don't want the government to work. So the president's responsibility, which is to make the government work, requires him to do some damn thing. And I think he did the right thing here.
All right, so here's what I'm reading. The president said, when Congress refuses to act and, as a result, hurts our economy and puts people at risk, I have an obligation as president to do what I can do without them, I guess, Congress. I have an obligation to act on behalf of the American people. All right, now, wait a minute. We have the new Credit Card Act, and by acting on the people, we have less credit cards. Interest rates went up. They took 5 million credit cards away. Did that help the American people?
Put aside the merits for 1 second.
Okay.
What you've got here is the tyranny of the minority. The Republican minority, which does not have the votes to defeat these people, are preventing a vote from taking place. Look.
Now, isn't that just the dysfunctional Senate? I mean, really? I mean,
call it what you will. It's the president's job when the government is being shut down to make it work. Now, you may not like the policies that the Consumer Protection Agency would invoke. Fair enough. Let's have that fight. Let's have the Republican senators, Mitch McConnell, go out there, tell us what they want, let's debate it, and let's have a vote on it. But in the meantime, where the law says we're going to have that agency, the president better make sure.
Well, look at the NLRB. Talk about job creators. So, Boeing sort of fought it out with the National Labor Relations Board, and they sort of settled. They said you can build some of the planes in Washington, but we'll keep our plant in South Carolina, and everybody thought that was okay. Now, all of a sudden, they brought this new NLRB guy, and I'm sorry, Craig Becker, who's obviously radical, but then the Griffin, who's directly from the labor union, too. Yeah, you're bringing in union guys on the NLRB. That's not fair.
You can do better than just calling the guy a name. You can actually argue the merits of his position.
Sure.
The merits of his position are subject to disagreement. And you know what? You could be right. But in the meantime, let's not shift this away from a plot, a Republican plot to shut down.
I can call names, but now you can use the word plot.
No.
Okay.
Plot is about general things.
Loaded word.
No one is calling anybody a name. But my point is that we've got to distinguish between the constitutional system that says to the Senate, do your job, but let the government function, and a Republican theory.
Right.
How's that?
Okay. So how would you solve this? Because you're a smart guy. You've been in politics a long time. How would you solve it? Do we just change the rules in the Senate? Because this, the argument is this is a command and control issue, and they're just trying to expand the command and control.
They may be right. Let them vote it. It's America. It's a democracy. 40-odd members of the Senate, a minority, is stopping the majority from voting. That once in a while has some reason.
Right, so
but the way they're using it is wrong.
Right, so this is a gimmick.
The president did the right thing.
So this is a gimmick.
It's a gimmick, but it's bad for the country. If you can shut down an agency just because you don't like what it does, after the law has said we're going to have that agency, there are no rules. Any 40 people can stop the government from functioning. You may not like the government, but when the law says it functions, it's the president's job to make sure it happens.
All right, so NLRB, I'm having a hard time with that one. They have been rather activist here in the last 6 to 9 months. With the people that have been brought in or under this sort of recess thing, they are going to be more activist.
They are.
And right-to-work states, we know from an economic standpoint, have had higher rates of economic growth than these union states. Those numbers are incontrovertible. The question is how much people get paid. They get paid less. Isn't the state's success make right-to-work an okay concept?
That's going to be argued out in the state of Indiana, I gather, quite vociferously, pretty quickly. The unions protect wage levels for average middle-class Americans. Paying people a living wage is a good thing. It creates demand. Demand creates economic activity. Supply-side politics have run its course Nice try, but I do think there's a place.
Thank you for the economics lesson, sir. Thank you. But let me say this finally. If they were so good, why have union jobs been dropping for the last 35 years?
Because unions make mistakes sometimes. As long as I'm prepared to admit that, you better be prepared to admit sometimes Republican senators make mistakes.
Fox News alert.
It's true.
Unions make mistakes
on
occasionally.
Occasion.
Oh,
but by and large, they stand for a profitable, prosperous middle class, which keeps America moving forward.
Listen, I appreciate it, sir. That was good stuff.